This is actually really
Hey, what's up,
important
guys?
to
Up
me.
here.
This one is actually really important to me. So let's jump into this. Okay. So this video is called Japan is fed up with woke Westerners ruining their games. So what is this even about? I don't know how familiar you are with Dragon Quest, but Dragon Quest recently got remakes for Dragon Quest 3, and they were censored. And the Japanese did not like that. They did not like that one bit. Not even a little. They made fun of it on Twitter. Like the entirety of like Japanese Twitter was like cooking Square Enix. The funny part is also they locked replies on like a live stream or something. Um so here Dragon Quest is not as big here in the West, but Dragon Quest is really big in Japan. And this is the creator of Dragon Quest talking about this. That is really all I know. I've seen a few things on Twitter. To me, Dragon Quest is really important. I started originally with Dragon Quest 8. I played all the other ones. I love Dragon Quest, especially Dragon Quest Monsters. I like the new one. It's pretty great. But yeah, I love Dragon Quest. I think it's definitely up there with like Xenoblade Chronicles, Final Fantasy. Yeah, greatest, one of the greatest JRPG series ever. So yeah, let's get into it.
So there's a very noticeable phenomenon on Twitter where people will notice the censorship of overseas products, particularly those from Japan, and they'll say that this censorship is likely the result of companies trying to appeal to an overseas audience. Now, typically when these observations are made, those same observations are mocked by people on Twitter, particularly a lot of woke people who will simultaneously say that this censorship is happening and it's actually a good thing, while also saying that you're a conspiracy theorist for thinking it's
So
happening.
like
And
basically what they censored was that they censored like the clothes of the female character. They censored the clothes of the male characters, and like overall they censored lips of the trolls in Dragon Quest, which is really weird. Like, dude, if you look at the troll and you see a black person because of those lips, you sure that people that complain about the censorship are the racists? Are you absolutely sure that that is the case?
in the first place. Now, more often than not, those
Eugene,
conspiracy
you
theories
are my
turn out to be true.
specials.
And today we have an
No,
example of that
no.
with Dragon.
Remember the Gojo figurine incident where a woman, used a Gojo figurine in some unconventional way.
Quest. So a lot of people have been talking about recent censorship of Dragon Quest, and people were told they were crazy for thinking this was something that was happening. But now we have an interview, including the Dragon Quest creator, who comes out and just outright.
And remember, Square Enix now has a DER department, a DEI department. So yeah, that should tell you a lot. The funny enough, they removed like Sweet Baby Inc. from like their partner like groups that they associate with.
Confirms that these things have been censored, definitely with a interest in appealing to an overseas market where even the creator seems like they understand that this is all ridiculous, and it seems like it's something that is pushed upon their team by someone else.
Have you seen like the animation where like Sukuna did like domain expansion, malevolent backshots?
Now, of course, if we're dealing with Dragon Quest, we're dealing with Square Enix here, who has been criticized for censoring a lot of games in appeal to the global audience that unfortunately, a lot of Japanese companies have been appealing to over the past couple of.
You need to think about this. These motherfuckers went back to the Final Fantasy VII remake that released like, when did it release? 2016? 18, 17, 18, somewhere around that time. These motherfuckers went back to censor Tifa. It's insane.
Of years. On top of that, up until very recently, you would see Square Enix listed on the client list of Sweet Baby. Only a few days ago, their name was removed from this list. Now, it's unclear whether that is a complete disassociation with Sweet Baby or they're just trying to...
Remember, the plan is to not even have like these consultant like companies or DEI departments. The plan is for every I'm dying, for every person working in that company to promote and work on DEI. That is the plan. At least according to Bridge.
hide their association, at least publicly. We don't know what the answer is, but a lot of people are making their guesses. Now, we're talking about Dragon Quest III Remake here. So this is coming out in November, obviously a remake of a very classic game here, and there's been concerns about this right from the get-go. So, back in July of this year, people noticed that gender has been removed from the game. In fact, they used the dreaded Type A and Type B types instead of traditional biological genders like male and female, which is not only just a bunch of pandering and virtue signaling nonsense, but it also makes things more confusing in the game because
also, isn't this kinda against... Couldn't you spin this around and call this transphobic? Because there are trans people who definitely try to fit into either of those categories, male or female, and removing them both isn't kinda transphobic. Couldn't you spin that around? I wonder if you could beat them with their own weapons.
in that game, there's other jobs that are no longer distinguished by gender and name, so it makes things very confusing in some aspects. So it's not just virtue signaling, it's actually hurting the product itself. On top of that, only a few weeks ago, we saw people pointing out, a lot of Japanese gamers pointing out, that some of the iconic Dragon Quest designs have been censored. And this one with the warrior character here is one that a lot of people have really enjoyed with her bikini armor. This is something that is very popular in Japan, this design and this character. And you can see the censorship is very obvious. On the left, you have the original design. Here's the...
And fun fact, there is a design from 2011. There is a design from 2011 where she wears like black clothing, like a what do you call it? Like a black bodysuit, not entirely, with like rips in like the pants and stuff. And that looks leagues better. That just looks leagues better. Which is funny. Why they haven't used that one? Because that one also looked pretty solid. Now, I would still complain, because, you know, I think remakes should improve upon the original, and this is not an improvement, still. And, like, not change, like, the art style, or, like the style for what the game should go for.
The censored one, they basically added a pair of shorts underneath there, which obviously cover up the top part of her legs and her hips.
That shit looks
and then
so
they put
ugly.
A crop top under her bikini armor here, which obviously covers up her chest. And a lot of people were very upset about this, especially on the Japanese side of Twitter, because they're now seeing these games censored on their end. It's not just localizations that are getting censored in the process of going to the English audience. They're getting censored at the base. The Japanese product itself is being censored for this global market. Now, of course, as I mentioned earlier, the usual suspects on Twitter will see complaints about this censorship and they'll say it's actually a good thing and that it's not a big deal and just get over it. Well, as I always say, if it's not a big deal, why change it? If it is not a problem, why change it? Which makes this obviously hypocritical, because if it's not a big deal, why did you censor it? Because it is actually a big deal.
because he wanted it
big
to be
deal,
censored.
then why did you do it in the first place? If it wasn't a big deal, why did they feel the need to censor this iconic design that has existed for many years completely untouched? It's just an unnecessary change, and if you don't like this design or it bothers you morally or something like that,
Also, it is also disrespectful because a lot of the art that Dragon Quest uses and a lot of the character design that Dragon Quest uses is by the creator of Dragon Ball, Akira Toriyama. And it's funny, if I have a nickel for every time when a creator of a popular piece of media dies and it gets changed after his death, I had 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. It happened with Marvel, and funny enough, now it happened with Dragon Quest. Rarely quickly after the death of the original creator. Or like the original creator of the designs. That's interesting.
then just don't play the game. It's that simple. But like I said, a lot of people on the Japanese side of Twitter were very angry. Here's one tweet a lot of people have pointed out saying, why are you doing this? The female warrior from Dragon Quest is one of the most monumental figures in Japan's bikini armor culture. Of all things, it was a remake of Dragon Quest III. How stupid. I want all involved parties to apologize at Akira Toriyama's grave. Even if you have to succumb to political correctness, don't do it in Akira Toriyama's style. Some very strong words there. Now, what's interesting is there's been a recent interview including a former Shonen Jump editor-in-chief as well as editor-in-charge of
Doberman's reference is crazy. Writing his name is harder than saying Worcestershire. Did I say that correctly?
Dragon Ball, but also the Dragon Quest creator were interviewed where they basically went over all of these censorship concerns and made it very clear that this is something that is being forced upon them in order to appeal to an overseas market.
あとすごい話題になってたそのコスチュームとか当時とそのままなのかどうなのかみたいなのが
Okay, so I think I'm like in the way of some words. So basically says there was a lot of buzz about the costumes. It became a topic of discussion because they weren't exactly the same as they were back then.
ありましたよね、また。
まあね、いろいろ
Yeah, there were various regulations in place. Apparently, it's not allowed to show too much
ちょ
skin.
っとあんまり深掘りする気はないん
We
です
don't really
けど。
intend to dig too deep
いい
into
の
that.
にだ
So basically, they are fucking hypocrites. Because when it's IRL women, they can show as much skin as they want. But when it's fictional women, then it becomes a problem. That's interesting. That double standard.
ってフィクションだけど
It's simply about the user immersing themselves in the fiction and going on an
その
adventure.
中に主人公というあなたが入って冒険するっていうことでいいじゃないと思うんですけど
What's wrong with it?
違うんですかね
なんですかね、よくわかんないですけどね、
I really don't understand that either.
これについてはね。
ゲームだし、まあフィクションという
It's a game, it's fiction, it's a virtual experience, so as long as it's enjoyable, I think that's all that matters. Yeah, but if it's not like exactly the you know, what people want, it doesn't matter. Because it will rip you away from the enjoyment. Again, when it matters because they changed it. If it didn't matter, then they wouldn't have changed it.
自分の中のバーチャル体験でのノンフィクションだから楽しくければいいのにっていうふうに思っちゃいますけどね。
あんまり露出するとね、年齢が上がっちゃうっていうね。全年齢じゃなくて。
If there's too much exposure, the age rating goes up. It means we won't be able to sell it to an all ages product.
しまうっていうのがあったりとか。
ルールがやっぱなんか各国違ったりする。
The rules vary from country to country when trying to sell widely. There's the issue of having to comply with the strictest regulations.
広く売ろうと思うと一番厳しいところに合わせざるを得ないとか。
でも
当時そんなこと思わなかったですけど
We
ね。
never even thought
So you
about
can
that
see
in
in
the
that
past.
clip, they address the whole bikini armor being censored. It seems like it's a very obvious reason why. It's because they want to appeal to a broader audience. And you can see right off of the bat, there's something very odd here. It seems like they're almost doing this against their will. It doesn't seem like this is something that especially the creator is on board with. This is something that they are doing because they're being told to by likely their people at Square Enix, and that's just kind of the...
Now this dude in the white suit is, well, the former editor in charge of Dragon Ball. And next to him is the creator of Dragon Quest. And if the creator of Dragon Quest calls it out, there might be a problem with it.
The way it is, and it shouldn't really surprise anyone, but it's obviously very concerning that they're making these preemptive censorship changes to appeal to the global market, where it's even affecting the Japanese product itself. That is a very concerning thing, especially when it's going against the wishes of the creator of the product.
ある種のね、なんだろうな、絶対神と
And
言
they
う
were
べき、
compliant and like an absolute
全
god
の
and
名を
evil
借りた悪み
disguise
たいな
is
感じ
good.
全員が
There's no
不
such
快感
thing
を
as
覚えない
content
なんてこ
that
とはない
doesn't
わけ。
make everyone uncomfortable.
綺麗汚いとかさ、
Because beauty and ugliness,
善悪
good
っ
and
て人
evil
そ
are
れぞれに
different for everyone.
感じ方があるわけじゃん。で、物事はやっぱり
There are a few things that absolutely must not be done. As long as you follow those, you're free to do the rest.
根っこにあるのはやっぱり絶対やっちゃいけないことだけいくつかあって、それさえやらなきゃあとはいいじゃないって、そういうのがないわけよ。だからやっぱり
Although I do think that I kind of disagree with his statement that there's like good and evil is different for everyone. There is definitely objective and good and evil. There is objective moral in my opinion.
英米の方から来てる
There's a religious concept from the West, especially in America, that influences their approach to sex education, right? Now, it's very cryptic what he means by that, but there's a follow-up video that we're also going to react to, where it is pretty obvious what he is talking about.
その宗教的な概念から来る
What makes it even
正教徒の考え
more
方ってア
obvious.
メリカにあるじゃない。彼らのコンプラの考え方って本
Their
当に
approach to
狭い。
compliance is really
You can see him
narrow-minded.
constantly mentioning this whole thing about compliance. It seems like they are at the mercy of whoever they're dealing with in this situation, where they have to comply fully with everything they're being instructed to. And in this case, it seems like it's constantly involving censorship of outfit designs or anything that could possibly offend anyone overseas. And as always with these things, I wonder who is in their ear. Who is in the ear of these publishers and developers telling them these demands? Because these don't reflect the average gamer in America or in the West. They reflect the crazy beliefs of a bunch of whack jobs on Twitter and a bunch of woke people who are destroying the industry. It's very odd. I don't know who convinced all these studios this is the path to take, because they don't even seem to understand what...
Investors. It's always been investors. Remember, these companies are not run by gamers. They are run by investors. Because remember, the higher your ESG score, the more funding you will get.
What's going on. They basically are just like, well, this is the way it is. This is an overseas market. We don't understand. We just have to do these things because that's what we're supposed to do. And that's not really the case. They're just being manipulated by someone like Sweet Baby, a company like them, these consultation firms who are coming in and telling these people you need to appeal to this global market by censoring yourself.
でだから向こうでコミックス出す時に全部その年齢で区切ってやらなきゃいけない。少年ジャンプの漫画だったら13アップ、13歳以上じゃないと出せない。私は全部リテイク入れなきゃいけない。でそれを訴訟が起きるそのために保険も入らなきゃいけない。
Because there's a risk of lawsuits, the company also has to get insurance. So if you didn't know, if you didn't know, basically you get kind of, what's the wording? You get, basically they fine you if you don't comply with them. They tried to do this with Wukong, who actually had to pay. Like, was it? I think it was $7 million. Because so they would need to put like woke stuff in there, basically.
もうこんなねバカな国とねやるの本当めんどくさい。でそっから日本も悪影響を受けてやってるから。
That is negatively
主人公
influenced.
も
Yeah.
ね男女選べるんだけど、男
In Dragon Quest, you used to be able to choose between a male and female main character, but now you can't choose between a man or a woman anymore. See?
こ
See?
う女選ぶって書いていけないのね、タイプ1タイプ2なの
We
ね
have the label in type 1 and type 2.
これ男女って誰が一体文句言うんだろう
Eldering had to do this also.
わからないね。
なんか
That's actually my favorite part of the interview. You can see the creator of Dragon Quest talking about the Type A and Type B body type changes, and you can see just like the disbelief in the room. They know what they're talking about is crazy. They know this is ridiculous, but it seems like they don't have any authority to say no to these things and that they have to just roll with it. And they're also just confused as to what the Western audience, in particular Americans, want. And you can see that last line too, like, who is even upset about this stuff? And that's the truth. Who is upset about these things? You know, a lot of these companies,
Twitter. Activists working at these companies. That's literally it. Not even the people that could consider this offensive care about it. I have not seen a single trans person care about not being able to like having the type A type B thing, or like a non-binary person complaining about that. Nobody fucking cares. It's just funding.
they appeal to a bunch of screechers on Twitter, but they don't represent what people actually want. That's why Sweet Baby is getting destroyed. That's why companies like them are being rejected left and right, because their values and their wants don't reflect what gamers want. And the proof is in the pudding. Look at anything associated with companies like Sweet Baby. They are failing. And companies that are saying no to this DEI and woke nonsense, they're succeeding. Like Game Science with Black Myth Wukong. They got a lot of goodwill.
Wukong, Space Marine 2. That is a really good game, by the way. That is a huge recommendation. Space Marine 2 is really good.
With gamers by simply saying no to this stuff. And you can see the trickle effect across the industry all the way over into Japan, where now at a base level, the Japanese products are being censored to cater to a bunch of...
I think they also did it with like the Tekken collection. No, not Tekken. Street Fighter. Yeah, with the Street Fighter collection, I think they did that. Where they started to censor physics for characters. Funny. How that is a problem here, but it's not a problem in Japan. But even like Japan gets influenced with this garbage.
Morally righteous weirdos living in the West who have no authority or shouldn't have any authority to control how these products are being censored or packaged to go overseas. But for now, that's going to do it for this video. If you want to watch this whole interview, I will put a link to it in the description. But for now, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. As always, feel free to...
Yeah, that's literally it. Like, this goes even further, actually. This goes even further. They even took down the interview, because I think somebody said something wrong, and they didn't like to hear that.